So very important day of the build today. As you know, I'm preparing for this engine. So in order to get the engine here, here's the process that I'm going through. If you don't know already, I don't think I mentioned it, but I have to mock up the drive shaft, and I need an engine block. Well, I thought I needed an engine block because I have this engine built and everything. Rick and Ricky built it, but I don't know what size transmission I need. I don't know if it needs to be a short tail or a long tail. This car was previously set up for, a small block 350. So I wasn't, I don't know what size transmission I need, and that's the next step. I can get one. There's my buddy has one. It's readily available, but I just don't know if it's the right one, obviously. So I figured I'd get this drive shaft in, which is a really nice drive shaft, by the way, and it came with the car. The car came as a rolling chassis, if you've been watching from the beginning, but it also came with this drive shaft, and it's super nice. But I ended up, instead of borrowing an engine block off somebody, I just did my research last night and figured out the dimensions of a small block, and the measurements from the motor mounts and where my motor mounts are, and subtracted and measured from the drive shaft to the motor mount. It was a process, but all in all, I figured out that it's a 3-inch tail on it, which is the most common. But today I came out in the garage, and that's all I planned on doing was just hooking up this drive shaft and taking some measurements. And I had a small list of things I wanted to do. I wanted to put the steering wheel back on, which I ended up doing, but the nut it's not the nut that's stripped, but it's the column itself that's stripped from taking the steering wheel on and off so many times. And whoever had this previously cut the shaft a little bit, so it's the threads are a little messed up, so it's a gamble every time you take it on and off. But I ended up getting it on there. It's a little cross-threaded, but it is what it is. That just means it's on there extra tight, I guess. But I ended up getting the steering wheel on it, and my other goal was to just get the trunk. Use my bed liner stuff that I used for the floor, and the trunk of the 58, and do the trunk, because I let this trunk sit. I put that sheet metal in there, and it was starting to get surface rust from like fingerprints, and like you could see where I touched it and everything. The oils from your hands will rust out pretty quickly. So I had some rust coming through, just surface rust. It wasn't bad, and I just wire wheeled it a bit. But I reached all my goals today, and then some. I'm really kind of proud of myself again. Not I hate to say I'm proud of myself, but because it's not really that big a deal, but I ended up tackling something that I was so intimidated by for so long, for months now. I've been dwelling over this, these rocker panels. And after I was done doing the trunk and putting the steering in, and I did a couple other things you'll see here as well. Like I painted the steering column. I just touched some things up, that like little things that needed done. It was kind of one of those days where I just picked the things that needed done that I've been putting off, like the steering column clamp, down in the engine bay, needed a bolt, to clamp and stay where it's at, and just stupid stuff like that. But I wrapped it up, and I went inside and ate dinner, and then I was like, it's too early to quit today. I didn't want to just sit around for the rest of my day on Labor Day. So I went back out and I attempted the rocker panels. Well, just one. You know, the one that I already have braced up. And you'll see here in a little while, but I was motivated and I gave it my best shot. And here's another thing that really desperately needed done. You know, this crappy, I don't even know what color paint you'd call it. It's like a maroonish, I don't even know, but I use it for like underneath the car to touch stuff up, you know, because I would never want it showing on the outside. But I never painted over those welds since I welded under there, and you know that'll rust out. So I love this bed liner stuff, by the way. Like it's really good stuff, and it's Rust-Oleum, and I mean it goes on thick, and I know most people would prefer to roll it on, but I like to brush it on. You know, it's and who cares? You know, I just get a brush from the dollar store. You know, it doesn't need to be beautiful, and because you know you put 2 coats on and you're good. But the first coat, you know, you can still see like some metal through your brush strokes, and you definitely need 2 coats if you're going to use a brush. You could probably get away with doing one real thick coat if you had a sponge roller, but I don't know, it is what it is. I didn't feel like getting into all that and having a tray, and you know, I didn't have any sponge rollers anyway available, so I had this brush laying around, so it is what it is. But yeah, literally it took me 4 minutes per coat, but I put it on really thick, so I had to wait a really long time in between coats. So I was like, I tried to find other things to do to keep myself busy, keep the process going while this dried, because I knew I needed a second coat. I'm really, you know, getting things done on this car that I put off for a very long time. And, you know, it's really intimidating to cut into, you know, your rocker panels. Like, it's just intimidating to cut anything off of a car this old. Like, I don't want to ruin it. But you know what? Like, there's only one way it's gonna get done, and that's if I do it. And I'm confident in my welds now. You know, that was the defining factor. Like, not being able to weld, you know, I had to find someone to come do it for me, and that's not possible these days. I mean, it's just, not to get political, but it's, yeah, you can't, no one does their job right, you know, and to expect someone to come do this for me, or even to pay somebody, it's not going to get done right. Like, I might as well dive in and just give it my best shot. So with zero experience, I figured, and that's another thing too, and I think I've said this before, like, there's no reference to go off of. Like, there's no video of someone doing this to this car. Like, there's other videos of people doing rocker panels on trucks and hot rods and, you know, other cars. Shout out to Ironhead Garage, by the way. We talk back and forth here and there. His videos are awesome. Go check him out. He replaced his rocker panels, but I'm kind of doing mine differently. Like, mine are out of square tubing, and I had these 2x4 square tubings laying around, and they're really expensive. So I wanted to use them for this, and I figured that this was so rotted and so rough that it's just, it is what it is. It needed done, and I didn't want to just put it off anymore. And having, I guess what really motivated me to do it was seeing the drive shaft being in there. I knew what I had to work around, and that's like my cross bracing and everything, I didn't know where to put it because I was afraid that it was going to hit the drive shaft. Now obviously when I, you know, drop the engine in, the car is going to drop like 2 inches, but I have a general idea of where it needs to go. But yeah, that's no good under there. That all needed to be cut out. Luckily though, like the body, like the outside of the body's solid. There was a little bit of, you know, putty in there, but not much at all. I had a lot, plenty enough to weld off. This body's straight too. I mean, everything's repairable. Like, yeah, so it's finally time to throw my second coat on here in between cutting all that out. I didn't show the process of cutting all that out either, like not all of it, because I know it's kind of boring to watch, you know. You guys get the point, but yeah, finally, like 2 hours later, I was able to put a second coat on this, and it was still a little tacky in some areas because I put it on so thick, but it's all good. But I don't really know what made me, you know, other than the drive shaft being in there and everything. I just felt really motivated to keep cutting away. There was nothing else going on today, so I just decided to go for it, man. And I knew that if I did, I would be happy at the end of the day. And I knew if I didn't, I would regret not doing it, going to sleep tonight thinking that you could have your rocker panel done. So I went for it. Trunk is finally buttoned up. I mean, I still have to put the, you know, gas tank back there, and I have to drill holes to run the fuel line and everything, but you know, for the most part, I'm gonna dynamat it, and I'm gonna carpet it, you know, to cut down on the noise because it's gonna be loud. I didn't put, you know, creases in it or anything. There's just a quick shot at the steering column, simple black spray paint. That's what I love about these cars too, is like, you know, if you want to like paint your dash, or you want to paint your steering column, or you know, like spray paint looks great. Like you don't need to get like too crazy with anything. You know, a black can of Rust-Oleum spray paint laying around or whatever works just fine. You know, 10 seconds, you have a brand new looking steering column. It's coming together, and I mean, I'm going to be welding in those holes that are in the bottom of the back seats there. I'm going to be welding that in soon, step by step. I have plenty to do, and it makes me happy to know that I have stuff to do for the winter. There's that clamp I was talking about that, you know, just needed a bolt, but I found one. So here's my square tubing. The square tubing is $100 a piece. You know, they're $100 a piece. I have 2 of them, and I was thinking about not using them and trying to find another solution, because they don't make inner rocker panels for this car. They only make outer ones. So I would have had to have fabricated, you know, inner ones. And I don't know. I feel like this was just the easier route. My Gorilla welds, yeah. Someone told me, you know, Gorilla welds is the expression. They're ugly welds, but they're strong. That's exactly that's my welds to a T. They're extremely ugly, but I will say, no matter what this turns out like, this car it has trim that runs along the bottom of the car, thank God, and it'll hide all this anyway. But it didn't turn out too bad. I mean, I could always use some filler and throw it in there, man. I mean, I could hide all this, and even if there wasn't trim, but I think I'm gonna go with the trim. It looks sharp with the matte black and stainless trim on the bottom. It's a real thick piece. They're real thick pieces, and they cost like $400 or $500 a piece. So like, I might as well use them. That's one good thing about this car as well, is it came with all the original trim. Like, they didn't skimp out on that. Like, they saved everything and they gave it to me with, it came with a lot of stuff. Like I said, it came with that drive shaft, and I looked that drive shaft up, and it's like $800. It's an aluminum drive shaft. It's really, really light. Did I mention that I love welding? Like, I love it. I'm so glad that I got into it because it's so fun. And the only disappointing thing about it is that I didn't do it, 20 years ago. I was always intimidated by it when I was a kid because I was always afraid of like getting welder's flash, or I heard like horror stories of people waking up with their eyes swelled shut, and I was always afraid like that was going to happen to me for some reason. I don't know why. It's just as simple as having the right equipment and knowing what you're doing, I guess. Not that I do, but I'm just winging it. But it really is the reason I'm like, now that I'm confident with my welds, I feel I can just build the car now. Like, I can build the entire car. When I started this project, I had some frustration because I didn't think it was ever going to get done because there was so much that I didn't know how to do. And without being able to weld, anyone who does this knows that, it's pretty like, why even try? If you can't weld, there's almost no point in attempting to do something like this unless you have a really good friend that's going to come over and build it for you, because without welding, like, you just got to buy bolt-on parts, or you got to buy a car that's in really good condition that doesn't need any body work, because you're going to be welding a lot. And I was so naive thinking like, oh well, this doesn't need that much. At first sight when I bought this, I went into it thinking that it was okay until I saw underneath the floor, but I had no idea that I was going to be doing all this. But I'm so thankful that I am, because it went from being a somewhat frustrating process to now, like, I can't even sleep at night because I can't wait to like get at this project in my spare time. Like, that's all I think about. It's all I want to do. It's all I research. I'm obsessed with it. It might be a little unhealthy how obsessed with it I am. As you guys can see, like, it's what I do in my spare time. Like, I have 3 videos ahead of myself. I make a video almost every day on something that I do to this, and it hasn't really worn out in an entire year. Like, I've been at this for a solid year and I haven't gotten sick of it yet. And I'm really excited to get to other projects after it's done. It'll never be done, but once it's moving and stopping, I might jump onto the truck. But we'll see. I don't want to make any promises yet because I always end up breaking my promises. I think I told you guys that I was next as the engine, which it is, but this was just like a freak accident. I did not think I was doing this today. And this is a really important piece of the puzzle. This is extremely important that these rocker panels get done. And I didn't see myself doing this when I woke up. after grinding all this down as well, like it makes it, obviously it makes it look a lot better, but I'm not going for, you know, glamour welds here. Like this, it is what it is. Like actually the crappier the welds look, like I actually like the look of you know, spot welds, and I don't really, you know, I like the raw look of things. Like this is a hot rod. I'm not really into, not to say that like I don't appreciate like beautiful work and nice welds. You know, I'm not, you know, that would just be bullshit, but I do, I'm okay. Like I kind of like the roughness and the rawness of, you know, the way all this is turning out. You know, I don't want a nice paint job. I want it to be matte black. I want it to, you know, if I walk by it and my keys scrape, you know, the door as I'm walking by, I'm not gonna have a heart attack. Like I don't really care. Like it all just has character. And you know, if the 58's a little different, like I'm probably gonna go with a paint job on that, you know, eventually, and it's gonna be you know, I'll be a little more concerned with that. I'll be a little more protective of it. But this car is definitely gonna be like the car that I beat around, and I'm not afraid to, you know, drive or break something or whatever, because I'll just stick it back on. I might have to cut, like notch the corner of that square tubing out, because just in that one corner, because the fender, we'll have to see how it is when I put the front fender on. See how it sticks out a little bit and it curves, but if I have to cut that off, that's fine. It won't affect anything, because I'm putting sheet metal in front of that anyway to complete that. I had to cut all that out. It was too far gone. Right there, that whole rectangular piece going the whole way to the red is all going to be sheet metal, which I have some scrap left over. I could have done that today, but I'm just glad I got anything done. There's how thick the piece of trim is. That's the trim that's going to go along the bottom there. I just pulled it out to show. So that will complete, you know, like you want to see any of my welds, you want to see any of this. Needless to say, I'm pretty psyched to, you know, to see a finished product. Even if I didn't have that chrome strip, I think I'd be okay with it being the way it is. That square tubing is the exact same thickness as, you know, what was there as the rocker panel, so like it doesn't even look any different really, other than the crease. And how I put it on there, like it's completely level with the motor mount, so there's going to be a piece, a cross brace that sits on top of this that goes across the car, and it's going to go from there to that decrepit side, which I haven't gotten to yet. That side is every bit as bad as this side was, but not anymore. But in, you know, 2 hours I knocked this out, so I think I can take a day and do the other side after this side's completed, and that's it, man. I mean, it was a good day. I'm happy with what got done, and who knows, God knows what I'll be doing in the next video, if it'll be the engine, getting the engine down here, or if I'm going to knock out the other rocker panel. But thanks for watching either way. Stay tuned.